The first thing we want to do in this example is determine the number of unknowns in this circuit and define appropriate variables using supernodes. In order to find the total number of variables, I'll use the approach where I kill the sources and then count the remaining nodes and subtract 1 from that. I subtract 1 because one of the nodes will be a reference node. That does not count as an unknown voltage. When I kill the sources, the voltage sources turn into short circuits. Current sources, if there were any, would turn into open circuits. Resistors stay as they are. So both of these voltage sources here and here turn into short circuits. This becomes all one node. And now there are only perfect conductors inside this node as well. So there's only 2 nodes. I subtract 1, so I have 1 unknown. To define variables, I first choose a reference node. I'm just going to arbitrarily pick this one. So that becomes my 0 voltage level. This is a dependent node. Its voltage is 6 volts higher than 0, so this becomes 6 volts. This voltage source makes this node and this node dependent. I arbitrarily choose one of those as my independent voltage. I'll call this V sub A. This voltage is 3 volts lower than V sub A, so this is VA minus 3 volts. There are my unknowns. In the next part of this example, I want to define variables and count unknowns without using supernodes. So first, for the number of unknowns, every node will be an independent voltage if I don't use supernodes. So this becomes a node, this becomes a node, this is a node, and this is a node. So I have 4 nodes. I subtract 1 for my reference. That leaves me with 3 unknown node voltages. Now, if I don't use supernodes, the currents through the voltage sources also become unknowns. So I have to assign those as unknowns. I'll choose a current through this 6 volt source, and I'll choose a current through this 3 volt source. Doesn't matter which direction I choose to be assumed positive because we know absolutely nothing about the currents through voltage sources. So this gives me an additional 2 unknowns. So 3 node voltages plus 2 unknown currents totals up to 5 unknowns. To choose my variables, I arbitrarily choose one of the nodes to be my reference voltage. I think I'll stick with this down here being my reference voltage. Then all the others are independent, VA, VB, and VC. Then I need variable names for my 2 unknown currents. I'll call them IX and IY. So there are my number of unknowns, and I have named them all to define variables.